Hello everyone and welcome to the How Good Are. Today we're going to talk once again about multiple characters at once, because guess what? Both Ayame and Hazuki both got uncapped to 5-star with Doppels and everything, so we're going to have to talk about both of them. We're going to start out with Ayame, everyone's favorite, well, one of the three favorite 13-year-olds in My Record that are all part of the same group. We have, well, what do we actually have with Ayame? Well, we have had her for a bunch of time already, since very early in the game's lifetime, where she was in the Azalea event, of course. And people, well, because the event was so early, people actually did use Ayame quite a lot in the early days, because I think she might have actually been the very first, or one of the very first, actually I think, yeah, it was actually the very first welfare character in the entire game that everyone was just able to get to 4-star immediately. And because of that, well, if you just started a new account and maybe you didn't roll some good characters early in the game, suddenly the Azalea event came around and you just had a 4-star character that you could just give some Memoria and you just have some with good stats. And just because of that, people actually used Ayame at least for a little bit. Of course, that was a really long time ago, and as soon as people got other characters, they threw Ayame out of their team. Why? Well, she was capped at 4-star, and other characters were starting to get uncapped after a while. People got 4-slot characters of natural 4-stars, even, especially once Pity got put into the game. So Ayame, of course, this sort of need that Ayame had as the one welfare character that you just had at 4-slot just sort of fell out. But now that she's back at 5-star, what can we actually say about her as a unit? So she's a charge gorilla, so you're going to see a whole bunch of charge, and you know what, currently charge is pretty good if you have someone with charge conservation, so maybe she's going to be quite alright. She's an attacker with, for a welfare, alright stats, right? I mean, if you're looking for a welfare attacker, you just hope that they have at least a little bit of attack, and okay, she has a little bit of attack. Defense is actually somewhat alright too, but yeah. I mean, we're not gonna worry much about stats for low rarity characters anyway, because most of the stats are just gonna come from the Memoria you put on them, because they're probably gonna just be 4-slot. What about the personal though? Their personal. I'm not a Konohazu yet, but next video I will be. So for Ayame, her personal gives crit to self for 1 turn, which is not that amazing. I guess it's alright if you really want to have a really good turn with her. Like, you can do some stuff with this, like this could actually make Ayame do a bunch of damage. The main reason why I have some doubts about this Memoria is because probably right now a lot of people are playing with natural 4-stars that are at 4-slot and will just be way better at dealing damage. Like even 4-star, even like natural 4-star support characters at 4-slot will probably deal more damage than something like this. So maybe like she's gonna be not actually dealing that much damage, so her having crit and more damage maybe is not gonna be the best, and this is actually kind of something that we're gonna see for the rest of this as well. Where sure, it's fine, like it's gonna be low rarity attackers, but low rarity characters only really work if you have none other character that basically does the same but is natural 4-star. So let's think what happens if we actually play Ayame and we don't have a natural 4-star character that is a good attacker that has multiple slots. Let's say we only play with low rarity characters that maybe got uncapped, maybe like something like a Hinano, like Yachi or Nanaka, those kinds of characters. How well would she actually do there, okay? Well, we're going to take a quick look at our Spirit Enhancement. We're not going to go to her Connect just yet, because the Connect has new stuff. The Spirit Enhancement I've talked about before, actually, in another video. It's got a whole bunch of everything with a little bit more of charge stuff. So we've got some charge damage up, charge attack damage up, sure. But I will say that it kind of sucks that she doesn't have a little bit more of this, like maybe a little bit more charge up, a little bit more charge combo plus. And I know that other low rarity characters also have only charge up +1. While only natural 4-stars have like +2 or +3. But once again, if you have some higher rarity characters like this, you would just play them instead of Ayame. Like, Ayame doesn't actually have anything in her Spirit Enhancement that would make you pick her over literally a 1-slot Hagumu, for example. So that's not that great. But like I said, let's go back to the idea where let's just play her in a team that's all about low rarity characters. She would actually be kind of alright when it comes to at least being the charger of the group, because she actually has decent charge disc damage, means she will actually hit pretty hard with her charge discs herself. compared to other low rarity characters, so that's quite alright. She can give other people charge attack damage up, which is pretty good, that she actually has something to give to other people to be kind of a team player. That's always pretty good. And when you're playing with low rarity characters, because your stats are pretty bad, because some of your effects might be pretty bad, it's actually quite alright if you can help other people out, because by helping other people out, you can push people way higher than they otherwise would be able to get, so this is fine. Now about the Connect. The Connect, of course, has some new stuff to it because she's now 5-star. What does it have? Charge disc damage up. So if you're playing with Ayame, of course, you're gonna have 3 charge discs, meaning that if you get a Connect from Ayame, you are rather likely to actually be able to give someone else a charge disc, meaning that charge disc will be connected with 40% extra damage. And if you're playing with other charge characters on the team, they will make use of their own charge discs for even more damage. So yeah, overall, it's actually quite alright. The only downside is that there's no attack up or general damage up on this, so you're quite lacking a little bit compared to connects that maybe give just attack up or just damage up on it, so it's a little bit behind on that. But if you're playing purely a charge strategy, this is actually alright. Magia gives defense pierce now to self, which I guess if you're playing her as the main attacker, dealing some damage with charge disc is fine. The Doppel is cool that it's both like a motorcycle as well as a gun, because it's like a gun trigger down here, like it looks like a gun. It looks cool, Ikishima, but the effect is kind of pointless. I mean, the effects are basically the exact same as up here, so but yeah, at least it gives a little bit of attack up, so she can be a little bit more of a team player. So overall, what can we say about her? Well, the 5-star stuff that she got on Magia and Connect, it just makes her a little bit better as an attacker on a charged team. That said, the stuff that she has still makes her fall off compared to like natural 4-star characters. Her stats make her fall off against natural 4-star characters, but she's not bad. She's not bad, right? She actually has some stuff to her that could make her useful on a low rarity charge team. As an attacker, as a damage dealer, she can use her personal to crit. She can ignore enemy defenses. She can buff people with attack up and charge up, so she does have a place. And yeah, I guess there's not much else to say about her other than she has a place on low rarity charge teams, but not really anywhere else. Moving on, we have Hazuki. It's Nanaka's girlfriend. Oh my god, look at that, it's Nanaka's girlfriend. She has 2 charges, 2 blast discs. People used her before mostly to just have someone who can inflict curse. Like if you're going to a stage where having curse would be really nice, because maybe you have an enemy that heals a lot, that evades a lot, something like that, or just has really high defense and you don't have defense down for some reason, and maybe you can whittle that defense down with curse. Like as a source, a low rarity source of curse, she was pretty alright. But what else can she do? What else can she actually do? Well, if you check her personal, skill quicken. Oh, we're going to use a bunch of skills. Is that actually going to be useful for us? Well, let's find out, because I can tell you already, this is actually kind of useful actually. So she's a support type, which means her stats are not going to be that great. Even though she is of a little bit of a higher rarity than Ayame, her stats are, at least, or rather the attack is mostly the same, but at least the defense and HP are a little bit better than Ayame has. But once again, low rarity support, so the stats are not going to be that amazing, but still, they're alright. They're alright stats for low rarity support. Moving on though, it's pretty awesome. We talked about this once before, but you guys, Curse Edge is kind of the most important thing about her entire kit, that she can sometimes apply a curse, because once again, like I said, you used to play her as a source of curse, and this is just another source of curse. But also, very much worth noting is that she has MP gauge increase on battle start, the fast mana up, which is really good, so you can get to faster Magia, and if her Magia is really good, that would be really nice to have this effect. But it all depends on how good her Magia is. She also has Skill Quicken, which is just another one of this, just 10% chance instead of just being guaranteed, of course. And this is kind of where Skill Quicken becomes important, because her SE active has a really low cooldown. It's 5-turn cooldown. What? Well, it's an attack down against one enemy, which of course, if there are multiple enemies, won't really do anything much, unless there's like one enemy who you know is like the only one enemy that deals damage. The other guys don't deal that much damage. You can like single out that enemy with an attack down. Or if you're fighting against a boss and for some reason you don't have any Memoria currently that has attack down, you can use this as one turn of a little bit of an attack down on the enemy to make yourself take a little bit of less damage. It's fine. and with the 3-turn active from here, and maybe if you get lucky the chance of skill picking from here, you can actually push this down and use this more often, which will make this a way better active. So if you like playing once again a low rarity strategy where you're fighting against a big boss that keeps hammering down on your team, she will actually be pretty nice. And this is also where we find out what her purpose basically is as a character, is that Hazuki is supposed to disrupt enemies with either curse or, as we're going to see later as well, with just debuffs. Curse and debuffs are just the tools that she uses to disrupt enemies. What else does she do on a connect? Well, the connect is not that amazing. It does damage up, which is fine. I actually like damage up over attack up on connect, and it's 40%, which is great, and it gives curse on attack. Didn't get anything else on 5-star though, which is kind of sad. Like, just a damage up in curse it's alright. It's not bad. It's quite alright, but it needs like a third effect for it actually wanting to be really good. But once again, maybe this is not quite what you play her for. Like, aside from curse, of course. Like, if you want her for anything else but curse, the connect is just not going to be the place to look for, but the Magia, the Doppel will be, especially the Doppel Tagitu. But let's look at the Magia first. It does attack down to all enemies for 3 turns, defense down, it's a new effect on 5-star, to all enemies for 5 turns, still causes for a turn, and a MP restore to self as well now, which is really good. And something I just remembered that I probably should have mentioned, Ayame on her Magia, I think, yeah, just burns for 3 turns now instead of 1 turn, which is also way better, but it doesn't really change much of anything about what I said earlier. But yeah, back to Hazuki. So she can now also defense down to enemies, which is alright, especially against high defense targets, and maybe, like I said earlier, you might take her against high defense targets where they would still take a bunch of curse damage. Now you can also lower their defense on top of that, lasts for 3 turns, but also you lower their attack down, you lower their attack with this attack down right here, 40% at level 5. Which is amazing. All of them for 3 turns together with this down here, you can actually completely shred an enemy's attack down to like 20% of what it was from normal. And even if you're playing low rarity characters that have really low defense, even they won't really take that much damage from enemies if they're afflicted with 80% attack down. So you can really use Hazuki to completely disrupt enemies' movements, make them deal basically no damage for 1 turn, and then still have them deal a lot less damage for the other 2 turns. And then your attack down comes back up because of skill quick from your personal from down here. So you can keep the attack down applied to enemy from multiple sources. You can keep curse applied to enemies to sort of whittle away enemies. And this makes Hazuki a rather special support, because most other supports are just buffing the damage that your guys do. They like give attack up, they give damage up, they give some other stuff that just makes your guys deal more damage. But Hazuki is special in that she's supposed to just make enemies deal no damage. She keeps your party alive. And how good is she at that? Well, she's actually pretty good at that. Because like I said, 40% attack down for 3 turns. And she now gives herself MP restore as well, meaning that it's a lot faster to keep using Magia. You also have the fast mana up, which now comes into play that, hey, even if you start a battle and you already, on wave 1, turn 1, you're already facing an enemy that does a lot of damage, you can get to Magia really quick. Maybe on turn 1 or turn 2, you use, let's say on turn 1 you use a Meteor Rain, or you use another Memoria that does attack down. There's multiple Memoria that do that. Like turn 1 you use an attack down Memoria, maybe a Negotiate or a damage down Memoria. Turn 2 you use the same, like turn 1 and 2 you do use those. Maybe on turn 3 you're out of those Memoria, but guess what? In those first 2 turns you got to Magia, and then you can use the attack down from the Magia, and enemies will keep having this attack down. You can use your active for more attack down, and enemies will just be enfeebled for the entire time. That's the word I would use, enfeebled, which makes it a really good partner for Nanaka, of course. What does it also do? Well, if you look at the Doppel, is the Doppel actually that much better than her Magia? Well, the attack down is the same. The defense down is the same. I mean, the defense down doesn't really matter too much, but it's okay to have. The curse is still the same, still just 100%, and the MP restore is also the same. So, once again, we have a Doppel that doesn't really do anything else than the Magia. Does a little bit more damage, so not that amazing. But still, the Magia is already pretty good enough. So overall, what can I say about Hazuki? If you are playing a low rarity team that might struggle against enemies that do a lot of damage, you can put Hazuki on your team. She's going to debuff enemies with attack down from multiple sources. She's going to keep using her Magia, and it's going to be able to whittle down enemies. Enemies are going to be cursed, going to keep taking ticking damage. They're not going to be able to evade. So yeah, she's a pretty good disruptor on your team. what does it actually mean for anything else, like outside of what I just said with the low rarity characters that might struggle with this? If you play her like with high rarity characters, let's say a 4-slot team of natural 4-stars, what can she actually do there? Well, if you're playing like 4-star teams, natural 4-star teams that is, you probably aren't gonna have too much trouble staying alive. If you have an account like that, you probably have at least like 1 or 2 meter range. You probably have some negotiators. You have some other Memoria that do attack down, defense down. You have some other characters that can heal. You have characters that can give damage cut, defense up to your team. If you have an account like that, you probably have a whole bunch of options to keep your team alive. And you probably don't need someone like Hazuki. Like, Hazuki supplies your team with something that if you have an account that's pretty good, you probably don't need at all. Like, my team that I play never has to worry about dying ever. It's basically immortal. Even against the hardest 100 evils, my team basically can't die. So having a character like Hazuki makes absolutely no sense. But once again, if you're playing like low rarity characters, if you have a rather fresh account, a new account, maybe you've started just recently, and she's in the shop right now. If you're watching this video during the Konoha Hazuki event, what is it called? Tomorrow, the beginning is an endless. What is it called? Oh, beginning is a recurring dream. Okay, that's a weird name. If you're playing during this event and you have a rather fresh account, you can pick her up in the event shop. You can get her to 4-slot with Magia chips, with bottles, Destiny bottles, which are also in the shop. And as on a fresh account, having her 4-star is pretty good, so she can keep your team alive. So overall, she can do a decent early game job. But as your account will evolve, you'll probably throw her on the wayside because you just don't need to survive that much anymore because you have other ways of survival. But yeah, overall, she's a really good girlfriend for Nanaka, and that's the end of this. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.